Aiden caught his wife smiling as her lover grabbed her ass. He filed for divorce, and now she is begging for forgiveness. His spouse, Chloe, 30, and Aiden, 32, recently got back from an extended camping trip with two other couples who have been friends for years. They had a terrific VY sit, but Aiden still cannot get over what happened the morning they departed. As they prepare to return home and were all packed, Aiden noticed Chloe and his friend. When he looked up from loading their car, they were a few feet distant from the campsite. He watched as he reached out and squeezed her hip while slipping his hand down her ass while she was stooping to pick something up. Chloe pushed his hand away swiftly, but she did not seem furious. Instead, she was grinning at him in a way that was almost amusing. Aiden felt as though he had been punched in the stomach, but it all happened so quickly, maybe a second or two. He looked about, but it did not appear to be observed by anyone else. The second couple was farther away, talking about the travel back, while his wife was busy packing up their car. It was a calm drive home. Chloe attempted to strike up a discussion, but Aiden was unable to concentrate since he kept thinking about that event. He pretended that he was just thinking about work when she questioned why he was so silent. To tell the truth, he was stunned. He was reluctant to mention it. She could try to convince him that he was being crazy or that he was just having hallucinations if he brought it up. He had the impression that he was going through the rest of the day automatically. He can scarcely concentrate at work today because he did not get much sleep last night. Every aspect is being questioned by his rushing thoughts. Everything seemed in order, and aside from what he witnessed, the remainder of the vacation was fantastic. He is unsure if he understood the scenario correctly. However, the smile on her face seemed too casual and welcoming for something that went. Aiden adores Chloe dearly. Since their first year of college together, he has never had any cause to question her. Even though she is his best friend, he is in trouble untangling a knot in his stomach for the first time. He has always had great faith in her and has never been the kind to pry. However, as he sits here, he is debating whether or not to check her phone. Even if he wanted to, he is not sure how he could accomplish it without her figuring it out, because it's password protected. He knows he has to take action because this is getting to him. Is it foolish of him to look through her phone? And how could he if it's password secured? Even if he wanted to update one, he located her iPad. Since there was no password, he was able to log in, and her phone is still linked to it. She is using Telegram. There they have been conversing. She is cheating, but he is still reading through the message. He is attempting to maintain his composure so that he can make the right decision going forward without ruining this. How should he proceed when she gets home? Should he confront her? Should he confront him at his home? Please assist. Update 2. He appreciates all of your advice. He kept his secret from her. He has sequestered himself in his home office, claiming that he has work to catch up on. She is not a suspect. The iPad stayed with him. She won't even realize it's gone because she hasn't used it in a long time. As an additional precaution, he used his phone to take screenshots of every message they sent. As far as he can tell, they have been communicating for at least 8 months. Their primary means of contact is Telegram. After splitting from him and his wife, they appear to have exchanged explicit communications and even planned to formally announce their relationship. It's unbelievable that she would harm him in this way. She even texted him a suggestive picture of herself earlier this evening while she was heading to the gym. Based on the communications he read, she wanted to be intimate and began kissing him as soon as she got home. He declined, stating that he had some work to do. He will take the advice he's been given here and get some evidence because he's confused and unable to think clearly right now. He will go to work on those actions. Additionally, he has noticed a number of comments suggesting that he keep his money apart from hers. They have joint bank accounts and co-own the apartment where they reside. She is aware that he had a sizable legacy for his parents who passed away in a car accident 2 years ago. Even if she doesn't have access to that money, is there anything he can do to safeguard it in case something goes wrong? Fortunately, they're not yet parents. Update 3. Since he occasionally worked from home and had no meetings this morning, he used the time to look up and call attorney. Although most couldn't schedule him until next week, he has 2 consultations scheduled for tomorrow. As soon as he gets a lawyer and gets himself covered legally, he will tell his wife and present her the evidence before he determines what to do next, like addressing Chloe. He will allow her time to organize her affairs. If she so desires, hire a lawyer. He has no idea why he's feeling this way. For some reason, he is more numb than outraged. The messages, particularly the explicit ones, make him feel ill and queasy. He feels like he's VYing someone else's life, even though he's only doing what he has to do. At the moment, he's not sure how long he can maintain this poker look before she realizes something's wrong. He appreciates all of your support and messages. Update 4. He appreciates all of the advice you have given him. He has been keeping himself occupied with work and going to the gym, so not much has happened since yesterday. Chloe is aware that the anniversary of his parents' deaths is approaching in approximately 1 month. He simply said that he was thinking about them when she questioned why he appeared aloof. A handful of his scheduled lawyer consultations are today, but the majority are scheduled for next week. After he chooses a lawyer and he is aware of his options, he will VY to another update. Final update. His divorce papers were filed this morning after he found a great lawyer who was able to draft them in a matter of days. Since he resides in a no-fault jurisdiction, none of the adultery EVY denke he collected will be utilized. The good news is that since he didn't spend his fortune on married expenditures, it's safe. One of them will have to buy the other out, or they will both have to sell their condo, which was a wedding present with equal down payments from both sets of parents. He gave his ex-friend's wife a ring on Saturday, and in VY Ted her over for coffee. Ironically, her husband and Chloe had taken an overnight excursion together, which is why he picked this day. Through their texts on the iPad, he learned that Chloe had informed him that she would be spending the weekend at her sister's house to assist with the children, while her sister's husband was away on business. Meanwhile, her spouse said he was gone on a project for work. In actuality, Chloe's spouse was paying for their hotel stay while they were traveling out of town together. He showed his wife the telegram pictures and messages. She informed him that a few months prior, she had observed that he was being aloof, but she had never believed that he was cheating and had dismissed it as work-related stress. She was devastated to learn that her husband was VYing an affair with Chloe, who is also her friend. He VY-ed her his lawyer's contact information in case she wanted it. Throughout their lengthy conversation, she is thinking about her choices. Sunday evening, after VY citing her sister's house, Chloe came home just after spending the weekend with her lover. She came in the door, kissed him, and said she missed him. She has nearly demonic compartmentalization skill. They needed to chat, so he sat her down. They live in a one-party consent state, so he did as his lawyer VY said and taped the entire conversation. It proceeded like this. He begged her to swear to tell the truth to him. Despite her apparent nervousness, she answered, "Of course, baby." He then posed a number of queries, including, "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Are you satisfied with me?" "Yes, darling, of course." "Have I treated you well as a husband?" "Do I treat you fairly?" "Yes, and yes." "So why are you betraying me?" After a whole minute of staring at him in disbelief, she started to dispute it. After some time passed, he VY said her to stop acting, as he already knew the truth. On a night out with her partner a few months back, she finally broke down and confessed to kissing a man who had been making advances on her at a pub. He's not sure why, but the whole thing was so ridiculous that he started giggling. At this point, she had cheated on him more than once. She had done it whenever she could. He questioned her about whether or not she had cheated before. She vowed fervently that it was the only occasion, that it was a sign of weakness, that she was intoxicated, and that it had no significance. He told her he had filed for divorce, but he remained silent and gave her his lawyer's business card. He wanted to speak with her once to see whether there was anything worth VYing about their marriage, so he hadn't filed yet. He instructed her to call his lawyer if she wanted to get in touch with him. After crying, pleading, and apologizing, she started gaslighting him by claiming that he was discarding everything they owned because of a single error. As he was packing a suitcase, her statement that "you have no one else in the world" was the worst. Why would you abandon your lone, Sir VYing family? He informed her that she was the only family member he had left after his parents passed away, and that he could rely on no one else. Thus, it hurt that she responded negatively. That evening, he departed for a motel, where he will remain until he locates a new flat. He formally filed for divorce yesterday. Edit. He kept his knowledge of his ex-friend's affair from her. He said nothing about the other affair when she confessed to kissing a stranger at the pub. After confronting him, his ex-friend's wife called Chloe and yelled at her. He doesn't blame his wife for being upset. When he spoke with her, she had been traveling out of town to sit her ailing mother. But her husband took advantage of the opportunity to spend time with Chloe rather than VY ding. He was caught off guard when Chloe confessed to kissing a stranger, so he kept the affair secret. It might not seem like much in comparison to the double life she was VYing with his friend, but it was shocking to him at the time when he discovered how much she wanted to cheat on him. He simply went, since he was too furious to speak to her without losing his temper. Leah VYing made more sense than trying to figure out why she had been VYing an affair with his former friend. She continued to call and leave messages that night after he left the house. His ex-friend's wife ceased attempting to contact him after she phoned her the following day and addressed her husband as well. Both she and he have been completely silent ever since. He connected the dots because he stopped getting calls from his ex-friend's wife completely around the time she messaged him to tell him she had confronted him and phoned Chloe. Now to the next story. Story 2. Religious girlfriend confesses to getting drunk and VYing fun with 4 men at party. But the truth was far darker. He has been seeing his girlfriend, who he will name Rachel, for 4 years. They met while they were in college. Her parents were strict when she was in high school, so he is the first person she has ever dated. Because of their religious beliefs, her parents oppose VYing sex before marriage. They have been waiting since Rachel and her parents are really close. Even though he doesn't really care about it, he had intended to pop the question within the next 6 months. Now that she had graduated, he had chosen a ring and everything. This girl had him completely smitten, but last night, or more precisely, last weekend, that all changed. Since high school, Rachel has had a male closest friend whom her parents disapproved of due to his sexual orientation. Let us refer to him as Brian. Being in the same college as him meant they could spend as much time together as they wanted, which made her very happy. Although he has never been a huge fan of the male best friend dynamic, he was willing to overlook it because he was allegedly gay. However, he came out as bisexual 2 years ago. He requested Rachel to stop spending time with him alone because he never felt comfortable in his presence. She said that, like her parents, he tried to control her and didn't support him. He informed her that he would not be staying for her, but that it was up to her if she wanted to continue seeing him alone. Although it was the largest issue they had ever faced together, they managed to resolve it. As a compromise, they agreed that Brian and his partner could spend time with him and Rachel together, but never by themselves. He only wanted to establish a fair limit. He never intended to cut her off from her pals, but until Brian transferred to another institution during the summer, the 4 of them only met up twice. Rachel continued to communicate with him via Discord, maintained friendships with him and his ex-boyfriend, and even joined them and a few other pals to create a gaming server. Despite the fact that the majority of these buddies were guys, she reassured him that nothing amusing was happening and that the majority of them even had girlfriends. Brian and VY'd her to his birthday celebration last weekend. To make sure he was comfortable with her Leah VYing, Rachel wanted to discuss it with him first. Even though it was only a 2-hour drive away, she claimed she hadn't seen him in 2 years. There would be a number of her Discord server pals, including women who she had never met in person before, as well as Brian's girlfriend. Unfortunately, he couldn't accompany her because he had a weekend excursion scheduled that would take him out on Friday and return on Sunday. However, he assured Rachel that he trusted her and that he didn't mind if she went to see her friends. The issue began on Saturday evening. She sent him a text message in the morning while she was heading to the party, another text when she arrived, and a few more messages to check in during the day. Around 9 or 10 p.m., Rachel informed him she intended to drive back. However, the messages ceased at that moment. He didn't bother her because he thought she was just enjoying herself and didn't want to come across as domineering. She eventually arrived at approximately 2 in the morning, and he stayed up to keep an eye on her whereabouts to make sure she got home safely. Although it was out of the ordinary, he trusted her, didn't want to assume anything. He assumed she would explain that she simply got caught up in VYing fun with her pals. When he called her in the morning, she didn't pick up the phone. When he called her on Sunday morning a few minutes later, she wrote back to say she wasn't feeling well, had been sleeping, and had a hangover. Given that Rachel doesn't drink, this was odd. He wished her well, VY set her to drink a lot of water, and boarded his trip home. She was cuddled up in his bed in the dark when he got to his flat. She has his apartment's key, but she rarely uses it because he is typically there to open the door with her. She remained silent when he questioned her about why she hadn't stayed at her flat to relax. She has hardly left his room since, and has been complaining about not feeling well for the entire week. He has been citing home during his lunch breaks to check on her. In the back of his mind, he was dubious of what had transpired at the party over the week, but he was also frightened. Rachel sobbed as she woke him up from the couch late last night. Other than using the restroom, it was the first time she had left his room since he returned home. He asked her what was wrong after comforting her until she was able to speak clearly. She told him that she had committed a terrible act. Brian offered to bring her home after she admitted to being incredibly intoxicated by accident on Saturday. After Leah VYing Brian off, 3 of her buddies from the Discord gaming server hopped in a second car to follow them and drive her home. They assisted Rachel in climbing the stairs and entering her flat once they arrived. Then she had intercourse with them all. She claimed each of the 4 men. According to Rachel, she was completely out of it and doesn't recall the majority of it because she loves him so much and didn't want to upset him. She said she has been unwell ever since and has been trying to figure out how to tell him. She threw away her VY virginity, which she was ostensibly VYing for marriage to 4 other guys rather than the man who had taken care of her for the pre-VYs. Even though she didn't mean to upset him, he found her at his apartment because she said she intended to inform him as soon as he returned, but she couldn't bring herself to do so since she didn't want to lose. She pleaded with him not to end their relationship. He informed her that he needed some alone time to reflect. After that, she pleaded with him not to force her to return to her apartment. He told her she may return to his room as he didn't want to quarrel. Throughout the night, he could hear her sobbing sporadically. Admittedly, he was moved to tears himself. It's unbelievable that she would ruin their 4 years of relationship over a single party. He was about to pop the question. His faith in her has been betrayed. He hasn't been able to concentrate all day at work. If she's still there, a part of him wants to tell her to leave as soon as he gets home and that he doesn't want to see her again. A part of him wants to speak with her more and try to repair what they have left. He is unable to determine which perspective is more rational. How can he get around this? Update. This is triggering alerts everywhere. He apologizes to everyone who missed his last post. He is finally getting around to writing this because his girlfriend went to bed early and he has nothing else to do. To start, if you don't care, you can go straight to the update. He believes his pre-VYS post was removed due to accusations of being fraudulent. He wasn't spending time in the comments refuting every charge, which is one of the main reasons why many appear to believe it was a fake. Since he left work to see how Katie was doing, he hadn't even opened Reddit at the time. It wasn't even close to his top priority. One moment, he says he has her location, and the next he's surprised she's at his apartment. Is a simple and quick way to refute this. Just to make sure she made it home safely. He looked up her whereabouts on Saturday night. Since he is not a stalker who follows her everywhere, he did not look up her location after that. He wouldn't have known her precise location unless he had checked their text between his trip and his arrival home, because the iPhone displays your location and the text messages you exchange with that person. Furthermore, not everyone owns an iPhone. His girlfriend and he use an app, since he does, but she doesn't. He doesn't need to be a stalker. Therefore, no, he doesn't receive notifications from the app. Random excessive details. He apologizes. He wanted to let everything out since, as he pre-VY usly stated, he had been holding his breath since she informed him what had transpired that evening. He had all of those information about the situation circling around his mind. The core content is flawless, but the update is riddled with typos. Only the TLDR update was written by the O. After learning that his partner may have been raped, he apologizes for being a little disorganized. By the way, he's gone back and corrected the mistakes. After he shut down Reddit, he had no clue that his article would receive hundreds of more comments, each of them critically examining every word he said in the letter. There isn't any worry at all that she's become pregnant. No concerns regarding SDI. Not then, no. He wasn't even certain that he would remain with her. If he had stayed, he would have been worried about becoming pregnant and getting SDI, but at the time of writing, he thought she had cheated on him and was considering ending their relationship. No worries that she was potentially drugged and raped, not at the time of writing. Once more, she had told him that she had intercourse with 4 men, and he was still in shock. He would have thought she would have mentioned getting raped or drugged, but she didn't. He hadn't even considered the possibility that she might be in denial herself until he read all the responses. Does this devout girl who desired to postpone marriage now want to be train run on her fake? Of course not. It turns out that she didn't want anything to do with what transpired. Look at the remainder of the subreddit. If you're among those who said someone in my position wouldn't have taken the time to write everything out for a post, there wouldn't be any posts here at all if people in difficult situations didn't share their experience. You may personally expletive off everyone who implied that it was a hoax or or that she must have been a cow for 4 men to carry her up the stairs, even though he wishes what he wrote was. Everything above was a bunch of pretentious, for the record. He just included all of that in order to prevent harassment on this thread. If none of that applies to you, you can go straight to this section. He wants to express his gratitude to everyone who assisted with this, as reading over all of the comments let him realize what actually occurred. Just before lunch, he left work and went straight home to see how his girlfriend was. She was lying in bed sobbing, just as he had left her. After getting her permission, his initial action was to simply go hold her. He shared her tears. He eventually broached the subject of what had transpired that evening. Was any of that really what she wanted to happen? Despite the fact that a lot was said, she did not. As many of you urged to be clear, the friends she was with at the party were also intimate friends of Brian, her best buddy of 8 years, and not just strangers she met online. They were folks she had spoken to and played games with over the past year, but she had never met them in person. Over her headset, he would frequently hear her conversing with them, and he never noticed anything odd. He was glad she had people to play with as she gamed, because she's somewhat shy and introverted. She also claimed that there were 4 or 5 ladies working in the server, so they weren't all men. 3 of the guys and 2 of the ladies were present at the gathering. Brian's girlfriend, a few other pals, and several of their partners were also there. There were only around 15 people in total, and most of them knew one another. A little get-together of Brian's closest pals at his residence was all that was intended to happen. It wasn't even intended for alcohol to play a significant role. Since they hadn't been able to come together in person for a while, the most of them were just enjoying themselves at the start of the party. Since many of the attendees were LGBTQ+, there was little distinction between the sexes to engage in general mingling and socialize. Some people DVY-dead into small groups to talk. One of the VY-siders gave everyone mystery shots about the halfway point of the celebration. Brian and Rachel to take it for his birthday. Even though she first objected, everyone urged her to try the shot after learning that she had never had one before. Brian emphasized that it was just one shot and that it would wear off before she had to drive home. If not, he offered she may wait as long as it took for her to feel safe behind the wheel. She finally took the shot because she felt pressed. Things became a little less OBVYS after that. More people were drinking and hanging out. She is unsure of the specific indie VY duels who continued to give her alcohol, claiming she didn't want to spoil Brian's celebration. If nothing else, she was confident Brian would protect her. Rachel claimed that even though she didn't feel well, she trusted him to let her know if something wasn't right, and that he kept telling her that everything was okay. She recalls being quite ill, witnessing other people faint on the couch, and hearing Brian express his desire to drive her home himself in order to check on her. He expressed regret for allowing her to become so damaged and apologized. She recalls 2 other Discord males getting into his car after one of her friends promised Brian he would follow them in his car and bring Brian back later. She remembers Brian helping her get sober in the car by offering her a bottle of water. She recalls them laughing as they carried her upstairs to her apartment and brought her inside. He won't go into any more detail than that. She didn't want anything that occurred to happen. Was she gullible? Perhaps. Did she likely overlook some warning signs and make some poor decisions? Yes. However, Rachel wasn't worthy of that. The men who committed this are to blame. He's not GIVYing her a deadline, and she doesn't want to disclose anything to the police. He completely supports her decision, and he's read a lot about how horrible that process can be. Of course, he will support her through that as well if she ever decides she does want to submit a report. They're going to sit a physician. Rachel claims that she has been in a lot of discomfort, which is one of the reasons she spent the majority of this time curled up in. After some persuasion and assurance, she consented even though she really doesn't want to be prodded down there. In addition to seeing her on Monday, they will also get tested for STIs and pregnancy, 2 things they're equally concerned about. They have spoken a lot over the week. Both of them have shed many tears. Hugs and consoling one another when necessary have been shared in abundance. At least she gets some sunlight in the bedroom now that he has opened the curtains. He's not forcing her to return to her apartment for those who were worried, and to those who suggested it. No, he won't be outing her to her parents, nor would he abandon her now or after she recovers in order to find someone who isn't dead. In order to care for her, attend as many doctors' VY sits as necessary, schedule therapy, and other active VY ties. He will be taking the entire next week off. Although he doubts he will ever be able to make up for the time he spent apart from her this past week, he promises to support her through whatever comes next. Once more, he wants to express his gratitude to everyone who left a comment on his initial post and made him understand what a self-centered idiot he was. He hopes that everyone who was worried would find this update helpful. Though he hopes they can get there, Katie isn't feeling well at the moment. Comments where Opie has replied commenter, Opie, you do what you think is best, but I want to add something to make sure she considers it, because these pieces of Han do this to all women, not just herself. As much as I would like to say Rachel won't be the last, she wasn't the first. These rapes are. She is prepared to allow this to occur repeatedly if she is unwilling to act morally and report the violence. You should also speak with Brian, her friend, and find out why he abandoned her. This is what he did. He let it occur. He has to deal with this, and he can either support her or oppose her. She must inform her parents. You are sticking with a cheater. Therefore, please stop updating if she is unwilling to do this. Opie, I will not issue an ultimatum to her. She doesn't report, so I won't label her a cheater. Following the re-traumatization that comes with reporting and everything that follows, rape Tims have taken their own life. I gave it a thorough investigation. Have you, or are you assuming without having first-hand experience what occurs in our legal warning? All four of them would probably walk even if she did report. Nor am I forcing her to tell her overly devout parents, so they could try and embarrass her. Man, she is not responsible for this. The men who committed this are the ones who must be prepared to act morally and put an end to 5 rape. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.